Networking and marketing made simple is for you, the business owner who has a product, a service, or a message that you believe in. My name is Scott Aaron, and each week we'll take a behind-the-scenes look into the real-world marketing and networking tactics and strategies for getting what you have in front of you to a lot more people. Thanks for spending time with me, and now let's get started. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Networking and Marketing Made Simple. Super excited for today's episode. I met this individual on an awesome platform called matchmaker.fm. It's where podcasters can connect and network. And obviously, if there's a connection point between the two, it can lead to other great opportunities like a podcast swap. That's why this individual is here now. We're doing something on his show later. And who I have for you today is Brad Powell, who is the owner and operator of Awesome Video Maker, but also he's a video marketing coach and the host of the Standout CEO show, which is a great podcast. And obviously all those links to connect with Brad will be in the description of this episode. And why I wanted Brad to come on the show today is because, you know, as everyone knows that listens to this, my wife and I are big proponents and fans of video content to market yourself, to build your business. And obviously this is an individual who teaches just that. So I wanted to dive into so many different things, but without further ado, Brad, welcome to today's episode.
Yeah, thank you. So glad to be here. I'm really happy that we met up.
Yeah, me too. So let's give a little backstory. You know, obviously the audience knows what you're doing now with Awesome Video Maker and obviously the coaching and the podcast. You know, what were you doing prior that kind of led you down this path and this journey to teaching video marketing to entrepreneurs and coaches?
Yeah, well, my previous enterprise, interestingly enough, I was in the music business, and I was focusing on international musicians and helping them connect their work to an international audience, like actually finding an audience here in the United States and in Europe. And during that time, very early on, I discovered that most of the artists who I was in contact with, even though they might be really well known from whatever country where they lived, they were unknown here, and none of them had any video. So I found myself in the interesting position of going to conferences and meetings where these musicians would come and they would have like a 3 or 4 day event where they'd do a showcase concert showing off their stuff to music industry people. And I would go directly up to them. I came as a media person and with my video camera literally on my shoulder and say, hey, I can make a video of your performance. And I was partnering with media companies in North America and in Europe, where I would then license the music content to these companies that wanted to use it in their programming. So all of a sudden I was meeting artists from literally everywhere and producing these live concert videos. And, you know, the drill was connecting the dots between people who were extremely talented and their music usually, you know, had some very good crossover value, but were previously unknown. And so I had a platform where all of this content could be found, and you could like listen to a radio show on Afropop Worldwide and hear of an obscure African artist, and then you could go to the online version, which was the Afropop shop, which was my platform, you know, baked in behind their website, and find their music. And so if you'd ever had the experience of hearing about an artist and listening to their music going, well, where can I find this? This was a way to do that. And this was before iTunes. Like this was very early. This was happening like 2002, 2003 kind of time frame. And what happened that was really interesting, which really shoved me in the direction of being a video maker, was that National Geographic woke up one day and said, hey, you know, maybe we should do something with music. And the person who was in charge of this new initiative started talking to all the different media companies that I was already partnered with. And they all said, look, there's this guy named Brad. He has this amazing catalog that no one else has. You should talk to him. So right out of the blue, I got a call from National Geographic and they said, we've heard about you. We want you to come to Washington, D.C. We want to talk about this. We want your stuff. And they literally shoved me in front of, to be in charge of this new project. So literally overnight, I became the music guy from National Geographic and started going like even further afield. And it was a really amazing adventure. But, the upshot was I was basically helping solo entrepreneurs in the form of musicians connect with a really large audience and fan base over the internet using video. And the video was a combination of their performance, but it was also interviews and backstory of who these people were so that they could put a personal brand and personal face on their brand. And this is essentially what I'm doing now for anyone who's in business.
I love that. It's seeing that there is a gap in the marketplace and a need, especially now living in a world where everyone is spending their time online and visibility is key, and video is such a great attention grabber. I started doing video back in 2012, 2013, and haven't stopped since. And, people think that I'm great on camera because I'm just good on camera. Well, no, I've had a ton of practice. It's,
Right.
I remember looking back at the first video I ever did, I was holding the camera like under my chin. I wasn't looking in the right eye hole, my tone of voice, my inflection, because you have to pretend like you're talking to someone. You have to pretend like there's 1,000 people standing in front of you. and a lot of people don't get that concept. So what do you feel it is about entrepreneurs, solopreneurs appearing on video or on camera that really scares them the most and basically pushes them into that comfort zone of not wanting to put themselves in front of the lens that way?
Yeah, I think it's really all about being fearful of being judged. And because it's the internet, people think things like, oh, if I do something wrong or if I say something foolish or stupid, it's going to go out there online and it's going to live out there forever, and I'm never going to be able to live this down. And it's that feeling of, oh my gosh, like what will people think of me if I don't show up in the way that I really want to? And people want to be super perfect about it and want to be really careful about it. And that is probably the biggest error. Like it's really, I think, a big tragedy because there are so many super creative and talented business leaders who are literally holding themselves back because they're not willing to get in front of the camera and start talking. And of course, the truth is, even if you do something that is way less than perfect, or you have some kind of pratfall version of yourself, that's really endearing. Like there's all kinds of evidence that if you do something and you make a mistake or you trip or you do anything that's just normal, like you're basically showing up as a normal human, that people will relate to you much better when you're doing that. And we all know this from when we see celebrities, we know it from when we're following politicians, and the ones who are always like controlled and careful with their messaging are like the most boring, non-interesting folks that generally don't do very well.
Yeah, taking perfectly imperfect action and showing vulnerability is a real important thing. I jokingly tell people they have no problem videotaping their kids, their spouses, their loved ones, their pets, a tree. But as soon as they reverse that camera around and it's their face that they're looking at, they freeze up. And now all of a sudden they don't know how to use a video camera. And again, every master was once a disaster. Practice makes practice. You have to start somewhere. Yeah. So if you were to give advice to that person that knows they need to be on camera more because they have a powerful message to share, they want to be a salmon in a world of fish, where in the sense that they don't want to just continue to just post, which everybody's doing, and they know video can really set them apart. What are some easy things that people can do to relax themselves, to shift their mindset, and thus making getting on camera and shooting a video of themselves makes it a little less scary?
Yeah, well, I would say two ways to look at it and two kinds of videos that you can make. One is that probably the most simple thing that you can do is what I've seen you do a lot, and I certainly been practicing this myself, is to do a live stream. And when you're live, you're really off the hook of doing things perfectly because of the fact that it's live and it's in the moment and that you can actually have real-time conversation with people who are there and commenting. You have this back and forth. It's much more of a call and response. And this is probably one of the biggest mistakes that I see people making when they're doing video is that they treat their video like a broadcast. And you really want to treat your video much more like a conversation. And so when you're live, you can literally have that conversation with whoever happens to be there with you. And even if you go live and no one's there, like the number of viewers is zero, you can still imagine that in the future people will be there and you can talk to that future viewer and talk to them in a really personal way. So this is one of the sort of simple things. Like you can literally pull your phone out and go to whatever your favorite app is to do this. You can do this on almost all the platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of these platforms, LinkedIn, they all have a live capability. And so, yeah, push that, go live button, start talking, and just see who shows up. And of course, when you're on a platform, let's say like Instagram, they have features on the platform where you can bring any of the people who are there. You can say, hey, who would like to come up and talk with me? And if somebody raises their hand, you can literally bring them on. And now there's two of you. And now you're even more off the hook because you can ask questions. You can be really curious about the person. If you're a coach, you can have a little impromptu coaching session with that person and actually give value in the moment. And these are all things where you can absolutely be in your zone of genius and literally, again, having a real conversation with someone. And the pressure is off. Like, again, like probably the second biggest mistake people make is they think their video is all about them. And you really want to turn that around and go, no, this video is all about the people who I'm talking to. Anyone out there, even if it's only one person that I'm having this conversation with, this is who this is for. And as soon as you start shifting that perspective, you can forget about like what you look like and what you sound like and whether you said the smartest thing in the world and any of the rest.
The interesting thing that you said was, when I go live on LinkedIn, here's the interesting thing. So I use something called StreamYard to do so.
Yep.
And here's the cool thing about StreamYard. They don't show you how many people are watching at all. So I don't know if I'm not going live. So if I'm live on Facebook and LinkedIn at the same time, I'll see how many people on Facebook are watching. But if I just sometimes stream to LinkedIn, I have no clue. The only way I know people are watching is when I engage people in the video, when I say, type Y or yes in the chat box, if this is resonating, then I start seeing the chat start to fill up. I'm like, oh, there's people watching. Right. So that's what I actually appreciate that, because there's so many people that get fixated on, well, how many people are watching it? How many people see it? It doesn't matter how many people see it. It's the fact that you did it. And the other thing that people need to realize when you go live, yes, you're off the cuff, but also don't forget it's evergreen content, meaning that live will be up there forever. So I have people that pop on to my lives from weeks and months ago because it's a relevant content of something that they want to learn about. So the more content that you have out there, the better it is for you, your visibility, and your business. Now, when you made that transition, obviously you found the gap and the void in the marketplace for everything you did with National Geographic, and then obviously helping artists and now, business professionals and entrepreneurs. What was the biggest transitional thing that you needed to do, or maybe obstacle that you needed to personally overcome when you started to do more of the personal coaching, helping all these people show up on video more authentically and genuinely?
Well, honestly, the hardest thing was for myself to get out in front of the camera. I mean, I'd it's funny because I had no idea what I'd been putting people through when I aimed my camera at them. And I had done literally hundreds of interviews and was always going, yeah, just relax, be normal, be yourself. It's no big deal. Anything we don't like, anything you say that's wrong, we'll edit it out. No one will ever see it. It'll all be good. But then when I turned the camera around and faced it at me, all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, this is scary. So to basically sort of be proof of the pudding of, yes, video really works as a excellent, personal branding and content marketing, way of growing your business and growing your enterprise. I needed to do this for myself, and I needed to practice it on different platforms so I could see from my own experience and talk from my own experience about what works and what doesn't, and literally have social proof of, yeah, I do this too, and here it is. I mean, a lot of the things that I do on my videos and my content are very meta in that I'm talking about and I'm teaching something while I'm actually doing it. And so another thing that I do, which is I think another really great technique, is that instead of taking the angle that here I am, the expert, and I know everything there is to know about video, I literally give myself experiments and things to try that I've never tried before. And so I'll go out and say, hey, I'm trying this new thing. Come along on the journey with me. Let's see what happens. And if it crashes and burns, we're going to learn something. And if it turns out to be a really great result, we're going to learn something too. And so I'm much more in the mode of what I used to do when I was a music video journalist, and that I'm now essentially a video marketing journalist in my own content marketing. And I go out and I find things, I learn things, I interview people, and I learn stuff from sort of my surroundings, both with what I'm trying out or maybe a piece of equipment or a new technique. And then I will basically share whatever result I got, whether it was a positive or a negative one.
I think that's important, practicing what you preach. And that's the one thing I tell people that makes me different from other LinkedIn gurus out there. There's a lot of people that just kind of teach the platform without really applying what it is that they're teaching. So, my coaching and my strategies on LinkedIn, evolve because I'm still evolving on LinkedIn. So if there's something new that's working for me, I'm going to suggest that to my audience and my clients to do so. So Brad, as we start to wind down a little bit, what's the future of video hold for entrepreneurs? Because again, there's still this fear that people have. It's still the number one fear still in social media marketing is video. So where do you see the aspect of video marketing for entrepreneurs and business professionals going in the next 1, 2, 3 years?
Well, I see two big trends right now in terms of the types of video making that is really prevalent at the moment and really experiencing a huge growth. The first one is short form video, and TikTok is sort of the platform that's led this particular charge. And now pretty much all the other platforms are copying the TikTok, way of creating really short vertical video. And so what's interesting about this is that, first of all, these kinds of videos are really easy to make so that in a very short amount of time, like let's say an hour on any day of the week, you could produce at least a week's worth, if not 2 weeks worth of short form video if you plan and strategize properly ahead of time. And so it's a really facile way to really get your face out there as being the face of your brand and really become the familiar face to whatever audience you want to be targeting with whatever content that you want to be delivering. So short form video is, I think, it's totally what's happening now, and it's going to be here for some time to time. It's a huge growth experience right now for just about everyone. And what's I find just fascinating about it is that, first of all, it's really easy, and it's really easy to create a large quantity of content. So that's one part. The other area that I see that is also growing is in the realm of long form content and video podcasting. And platforms like YouTube and Spotify are now building out, features on their platforms that are really accommodating for video podcasts. And this is interesting simply because, say, on YouTube, it turns out that most people who are podcast listeners actually go to discover a new podcast by going to YouTube and searching there, because it's easier to find the kind of thing that you're looking for on a platform like YouTube, which is a really good search engine. And they don't necessarily watch the video. They just have their phone in their pocket and they're listening to the video podcast that's playing over there. And of course, when you're repurposing your video content that's long form, you can take shorter clips from that video and put it again on YouTube on your channel as a way to just sort of proliferate that content that you make. So again, a long form video podcast, let's say you're doing once a week recording. With that one long form piece of recording, you can now create a whole bunch of short form content. So this is where you get to have your cake and eat it too, where you can, get together with a guest, have a really interesting, fascinating conversation that really dives deep on any particular topic that you're very interested in and curious about. And from that, one time per week, maybe half-hour session, you can take that and cut it up into all your TikTok, Instagram reels, all that kind of stuff in short form, or even LinkedIn content. And all of a sudden you are all over the place. And all you did was have a great conversation once a week.
Yeah, it's repurposing, but also being omnipresent is just so important right now. So, Brad, as we wind down, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? How can they find you, and how they can learn more about how you can serve them?
Well, one of the best ways is to follow my podcast. And you just go to standoutceoshow.com, and the whole archive is there. And you can subscribe and, tune in and sort of get the combination of the solo shows that I do where I'm teaching a particular thing, or the conversations where I'm going out and finding somebody like you who's doing something really cool and talking about it. And the other thing that I'll share is, if you're really interested in doing much more engaging type of content, and this is aimed at video making, but it could be for any kind of type of content you create. I've created a listing of 40 video ideas that have, and they're all around engagement. So again, like if you want to have more of a conversation, or if you want to have more of a video making experience where you're getting people to respond to that video that you're making, this is what these ideas are for, so that you're not just posting stuff and not getting any response. So that is located at 40videoideas.com, and that's the number 40videoideas.com.
Awesome. So both of those links will be in the description of this episode. So Brad, final question before we sign off. What does success truly mean to you?
Well, that's interesting. Contrary to what most of the online marketers say, people really have this big push for, in order to succeed, you have to have a big audience. Like you have to, grow your mailing list, or you have to grow your channel on YouTube, or whatever that looks like for people. And people are feeling like, oh, my social media content isn't very big. There's all these other people have many more followers than me, which means that I'm not successful, and in some way I'm inadequate in my way of putting my face out there. And I really want to counter that with, that's not what you need to be focusing on. You can have a super successful enterprise and a very successful business just by connecting directly with that core group, that what they call the minimum viable audience for you and your business, and having genuine, personable, relatable dialogue with those people. And once you're doing that successfully, you get to a place where those people, that core group of people who are really engaged with what you're up to, they're going to bring their friends. And your job is going to be just to continue the conversation. You're going to be a conversation facilitator for this small group of people who really believe in what you believe in and are really down with what you stand for and are ready to follow you on the direction of the journey that you're wanting to take them on. And if that's going on, that's what success looks like.
Yep. It's the quality people lead to the quantity of people. I believe that wholeheartedly. And Brad, thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your wisdom, your story, and obviously your expertise with my audience. I know they're going to get a lot from it, and hopefully they put it all into action. And I do encourage all of you that are listening to go to the description of this episode and connect with Brad if this is something that really resonated with you. Check out what he has to offer and let him serve you the way that he has served all of you on this episode today. So, Brad, thank you again so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. This was a pleasure.
Awesome. And looking forward. And I will also be in touch with all of you guys listening for when I will be on Brad's episode on his podcast. So I'll drop that to you guys as well. So, everyone, please enjoy the rest of your days, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much again for checking out today's episode. And if you are listening through iTunes, Spotify, wherever you are, please leave me a rating and review. Let me know what you loved, what you would like to see improved, or ideas you have for future episodes. And if you are interested in taking your business to the next level, don't hesitate to go to my website, www.scottaaron.net, where you can schedule a free discovery call with me, where I can learn more about you, your business, what you're struggling with, and how we can work together. And don't forget to check out my wife, Nancy, and mine, our free community on Facebook called LinkedIn Leads for Life. We would love to see you in there. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you, everyone, for your support. Grateful for each and every one of you.